Hey guys. Um, I found an article on colorq.org and it's titled Deconstructing Asian Fetish: The Appeal of Physical Appearance and or Cultural Traits. The author of this article bases his evidence from personal observations he has claimed to have with a number of immigrant Asians. The definition given for people with Asian fetishes in this article is people who seek out individuals with specific physical attributes based on allegedly linked cultural traits. And I disagree with this definition because I don't think that people who seek out partners with specific attributes and cultural or otherwise to be a fetish. Actually, I consider it to be more of a preference. I guess that we should talk about the definition of fetish and then go from there. The word fetish originally means charm, and it originated from the 15th century, uh, and it's Portuguese. Actually, I mean, it comes from the Portuguese word fetico, which means false power, uh, object, or charm. And according to the Webster's Dictionary, the modern definition of fetish is an object or bodily part whose real or fantasized presence is psychologically necessary for sexual gratification, and that is an object of fixation to the extent that it may interfere with complete sexual expression. Meaning, according to AskMen.com, for instance, if you are attracted to brunettes, that's one thing. But if you're unable to get aroused unless you're with a brunette, then you're likely to have a fetish for brunettes. I can't speak for other non-Asian women, but I don't have a fetish for Asian men because I don't consider Asian men an object of fixation. Meaning, although I find Asian men attractive, they're, how do I put this? They aren't psychologically necessary for my sexual gratification. In fact, I've found other non-Asian men attractive before, such as Brad Pitt and that Zach guy from Ghost Hunters on Travel Channel. Yeah. I know. Uh, Anyways, back to the article. In the Deconstructing Asian Fetish, the appeal of physical appearance and or cultural traits, and damn, that is a long title. In the article, the author claims some say Asian fetish is just a harmless preference for people for specific uh, characteristics such as narrow eyes and a flatter nose, as harmless as some people's preference for dating, say, fatter partners. Those kinds of people would be people like me. Others say Asian fetish is objectifying and demeaning. It invites a superficial kind of attention from people who base their judgment of individuals largely on appearance, and worse, it's part of the larger phenomenon of racial stereotyping, which is debatable. I sort of agree with that, but then I sort of don't, because I think that only applies to a minority of people who are interested in Asians and not a majority. Um, Although the author tries to appear neutral on the subject, it's clear that he seems to suggest throughout the article that the majority of interracial Asian relationships are both objectifying and demeaning, and that non-Asians have almost a parasitic type of relationship with their Asian counterparts, where they seek out and take advantage of certain cultural traits, which the author claims that most East Asians have. And I disagree. The author lists the personality traits that he believes to occur more often among people who prefer Asians than those who don't, such as number one, sensitive nature or fragile ego. Quote, in East Asian, Southeast Asian cultures, Asians are less likely to criticize others openly. This cultural trait makes sensitive people feel more at ease, thereby suggesting such traits would draw sensitive non-Asians to East Asians. Unquote. To that I say bullshit. Because I too have had my fair share of observations of uh, with a number of immigrant Asians. Uh, and I can tell you that in my experience, if you do or say something that an East Asian immigrant disagrees with, most likely you're going to hear about it. For example, the first time I met Sung's parents, I bought them a pie, I think it was, and they told me point blank that they didn't enjoy it because it was too sweet, and they weren't apologetic about it. Um, Also, Sung criticizes me on a lot of things, such as my driving, my shyness, and my poor memory, which unfortunately are all valid criticisms. uh, Number two, we, people like me, are know-it-alls, and we have a know-it-all attitude. And this is another trait we non-Asian lovers are claimed to have, meaning that we gravitate toward Asians because they won't correct us if we're wrong. Once again, I have to strongly disagree. Um, if Sung feels like I'm incorrect on a topic or misinformed, he's more than willing to correct me and does so on a regular basis. Number three, we're verbally competitive and always have to win the argument. Quote, in the examples I came across when the non-Asian women start an argument, the East Asian men often make the initiative to apologize to the women before things get out of hand. Unquote. I can be verbally competitive, but only when I have factual evidence to back up my arguments. However, I find this statement very interesting, considering that when it comes to arguments between Sung and I'm usually the one trying to apologize to him in order to avoid conflict, so yeah. Number four, uncommon selfishness. Quote, the selfish type is also quite common among those who seek out Asian company, unquote. Now, to be quite honest with you, this one pissed me off a little bit because I've had to sacrifice a lot in our relationship, and I don't regret that at all. But I just was, I don't know. That one I don't appreciate particularly. Number five, the tendency to externalize problems. Quote, They blame Western society for not accepting them, and they have an escapist fantasy about finding welcome and acceptance in Eastern cultures. They claim that like they claim they like Asian people better because they accept them, unquote. The author suggests it's common for people in interracial Asian relationships to have a lack of value in their own culture, which is false in my case because I value the fact that I'm Choctaw, Cherokee, and Eastern European American. Mm, I think it's really foolish to say that just because I like to date Asian guys means that I don't value my ethnicity and my country. I think that's a foolish statement. It doesn't matter. I mean, everybody deep down appreciates who they are. It's just trying to. Some people just have a harder time doing it than others. But I think a majority of us don't have that problem. And so that's my opinion on that. I don't have a fetish. I don't have an escapist fantasy about finding welcome and acceptance in East Asian culture. I know that it's not the most accepting culture in the world, to be quite honest. And I don't expect to be accepted as an East Asian person would be. Because I'm not East Asian, they're always going to look at me like I'm a foreigner, which is fine. Because I am. Uh, so yeah, I guess the whole point of that was just to talk about the whole fetish thing, which I think is nonsense. And a lot of people mistake having a fetish with having a preference. So, definitions for words that you use are important to know before you just throw them around. And I'd suggest people purchase a dictionary because they can be really helpful sometimes.